Hello and welcome back to this damn full idealistic crusade, and yet another in my installment of seemingly never-ending Laserdisc collection update videos. Now this is another mystery box from the wonderful Jason Koestner, who has sent me another incredibly generous package of LD titles. So to go over these very briefly, to start, he sent me a copy of the DiscoVision version of the Blues Brothers, and the jacket for a DiscoVision title is in pretty nice shape. This is the standard CLV version, which is spread over 2 discs, and of course features all of the traditional DiscoVision layout and design, and actually a nice gloss on the cover. But this being early DiscoVision from about 1978, most of the times you find any DiscoVision titles, they're going to be beat to crap in terms of the covers, so finding a nice jacket is great. But you also have to deal with the fact that most DiscoVision titles are usually super rotted in terms of laser rot issues, so I just find them fascinating to look at. They don't often pop up in the wild, and so anytime I get to look at a basically originator of the Laserdisc format in terms of a DiscoVision title, I'm just super curious to look at the transfer. Of course, this will be 133 with analog sound, and that would finally get upgraded to the standard, rather common Laserdisc pressing, which is also 133 but does add a digital soundtrack. Also, knowing that I'm a giant fan of the 1980 Flash Gordon and I adore the US letterbox Laserdisc, which still has the best audio for the film, he sent me the 1986 Japanese pressing, which of course, while it is pan and scan with analog sound, has this really nice cover and nice obi strip. And of course, this is also referencing one of the endlessly quotable scenes, which the film is practically entirely endlessly quotable: flying blind on a rocket cycle. The rear has nice imagery and the traditional sort of Japanese layout, bold color usage as well, but also we do get a nice, simple black and white insert with a lot of Japanese text, but with some images, and it's nice to get an insert, and that's something the Japanese releases would usually do where the US disc wouldn't. It's just a single page, and it's blank on the other side, but at least it's nice to have. Now, I don't expect this to be a super great transfer, but even the older versions of Flash that I've seen, or when I would first catch glimpses of it on television when it was pan and scan, it still looked, quite striking because it's the 1980 Flash Gordon. And also, I've been curious about the analog audio on the older US pan and scan disc anyway, and since that's usually rather pricey for no apparent reason, I could finally check out an older LD pressing here on this 1986 Japanese version. Next are 2 Paramount discs of 1997 films. The first one is not as common as the second, and is also a title I've been very curious to check the LD of because I've heard a lot about it, which of course is the pressing of Event Horizon with the rather striking original poster artwork, nicely printed on a jacket. This is a later Paramount release, hence the more modernized widescreen banner on the top. The rear of the jacket is quite nice. It's just a single CLV disc, but with the all-important Dolby Digital AC3 5.1. And this, of course, being a 90s film where that's going to come into play much more because 90s discrete multi-channel mixes are extraordinarily bombastic and frequently get remixed and quite frankly tamed down on modern releases, so I'm very curious to check out this LD. I've always been curious because I've heard a lot about this film over the years, and I've seen it, but it's been a very, very long time, and I'm just super curious to check out the LD pressing in terms of the overall quality and the AC3 presentation. The next Paramount disc, also a 1997 film, so technically getting into later pressing territory, but more common is the pressing of Face Off, which I've seen this before in bins and things, but it's usually trashed. But it also being a 97 film, there's not as many copies floating around. So again, when I say more common, you can spot this and usually pick it up, but it's going to cost you a couple bucks. But usually you don't find it with a nice jacket like this. And before this point, I never realized how nice the actual jacket is. We, of course, have the poster artwork, a nice thick gloss on the jacket, the modernized Paramount widescreen banner indicating this is a later disc for them. But we also have a ridiculously nice gatefold, which of course revolves around the scene where our 2 characters are talking at cross purposes, because what else are you going to use for a gatefold? And then we have our chapter stops nicely placed as well. I also really like that we get the custom black label with the film logo on there in terms of the title logo. So This is one of the later LDs where Paramount's sprang for a custom label. And then the rear is also pretty nice, again with the nice thick gloss finish. So this does have a more premium feel. It is getting to be a later disc, and this is also a film that has not had very good transfers on modern formats. It's usually the same old dated master with quite a bit of noise reduction and things. And also when I watched John Woo's previous film Broken Arrow, which I actually think is underrated, I usually just watch the AC3 Laserdisc because that's got the really fantastic, very 90s booming multi-channel sound mix. And while I don't have the DTS version, which of course would be better, that film doesn't have super great releases. And there's also something about watching a 90s action film with the multi-channel mix untouched on Laserdisc versus a not so good DVD or Blu-ray. So this, of course, makes a perfect double feature with that because this also has Dolby Digital AC3, but it's also got the digital track backup with Matrix Surround if you don't have an RF demodulator. But this is just a disc I've always been curious about in terms of the overall transfer and pressing quality and things. I've always meant to pick it up, but I've just never found one that was in good shape. But I'm now really glad I have this version because the jacket is far more impressive than I ever noticed before. He also very generously sent me one of the later release discs that a lot of collectors definitely kind of chase and try to track down. It's a highly desirable LD that is quite rare and uncommon, and so I was really surprised to find that he had sent me the Big Labowski. And this copy is in such nice shape. It's still in the original shrink wrap. It's absolutely perfect in terms of the jacket, which, this being a later disc, has the thinner sort of cardstock, and it's just the disc inside, so it's very easy to get LDs like this with the jacket having the crumpled corners and creases and things. So I never expected to be able to look at this particular disc, and let alone one in such nice shape in terms of the jacket. This is just, of course, single disc CLV only with the film, no supplements, and it of course has the Dolby Digital 5.1 AC3 in addition to the Matrix Dolby Stereo PCM backup on the digital track. But this is also getting into late release territory because, of course, 1998 film, late pressing from Image, and so I'm just super curious about this. But again, never did I expect to find one of these or even have one, but especially one with the jacket being absolutely pristine. Next, for animation, he sent me a title that I've heard about and seen the picture of, but never thought I'd get to look at. And that's the only Laserdisc release of episodes from the classic Ren and Stimpy cartoon series. This is a special Laserdisc collection of episodes and shorts, and I believe some of these are like the slightly edited syndicated versions versus what turned up later on DVD. But this is just a fantastic jacket, and of course fully stylized in the manner of the show, and definitely makes me flash back to when this was airing when I was growing up, and it just was a part of most of our childhoods. But this has also a really nice stylized rear, digital PCM audio for all of these, so of course that's going to be better than the lossy audio on DVD versions, which is probably the major draw of this particular release outside of the really wonderful jacket artwork. But again, this is the only Ren and Stimpy release on Laserdisc, so it's definitely something that if you're a fan of the show and you're into Laserdisc, it's definitely one of the titles you have on your wish list, so I've just never expected to get to look at this. Next, for Star Wars, he sent me a particular Japanese pressing, and this one's quite big for me. This is one I have been on the lookout for a affordable copy for quite a number of years, simply because of the audio. Now, this is the 1991 Japanese reissue pressing of Star Wars with the original Style A poster artwork, and so it might look very similar to other Japanese pan and scan versions, which it basically is, but this being from 1991, it has the updated Obi strip. The big addition here is having a digital soundtrack. So previous versions that were the pan and scan edition were just analog audio and pretty much based on the 1985 home remix that Ben Burt did. That's also on the Japanese Special Collection version and most of the US releases before 1993. However, what happened here on this digital sound version, much like the digital PCM audio reissue of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Japanese disc disc that I got. This has the original 1977 Dolby Stereo mix on the digital track. So this is the best source of the original general release 1977 Dolby Stereo Matrix audio mix of Star Wars, which was quite surprising to first read about. It was discovered on an original trilogy forum, and then ever since I've just always meant to track down this LD, but since it has practically the same cover as the other Japanese pan and scan versions, and the rear is pretty much the same, it can be very difficult to look at search listings or ask sellers. You have to specify you're looking for this one. And then when it pops up, it's usually quite expensive because it's Japanese disc. So it's always a matter of finding it at the right time. And it's just been on my to purchase or to find list for years. So I was quite stunned to open this box and find this in there. Of course, the rear is pretty much identical overall to what we see on the other Japanese pan and scan versions and the Japanese special collection, because it has the same white background, same design, same images. But this being 1991 and this copy being in really good shape, this does look a bit spiffier and cleaner. And it also has the really thicker cardstock. So this is a very well printed, very firm jacket that has definite weight to it when you hold it in your hands. And again, the printing on this is gorgeous with really deep color. The gatefold, like most Japanese releases, is in black and white with Japanese text and seems to be basically an updated version of the gatefold on previous Japanese releases. So if you've seen my other videos showing some of those, this should look pretty familiar. But again, the printing quality seems to be a little bit higher because this is a disc from 1991. And nicely, if you love inserts in your Laserdisc, well, Japanese discs sometimes had them too. So here is an insert to, I guess, mail away to get the Fox Video highlight disc. And you even have the address on the back. So as with all of these, you always have to wonder, well, if I mailed this in Japan, would it actually go anywhere? Would I get a response? But it's just much more uncommon to find one of these still intact in a Japanese disc versus finding them in a US disc. Then for Star Trek, he nicely sent me a copy of the special longer version, which was the home video cut of the motion picture that was the standard edition for a while, which basically reinstated some of the deleted material from the theatrical cut and infamously had some shots with unfinished effects or elements of the set visible. The only way you could get this cut was on the older video releases of the 1980s until they did the big box set 4K UHD version of the motion picture with the new version of the director's cut, and only in the big deluxe box set was there a disc where they basically reconstituted this version of the film. However, this is still an important part of Star Trek history, has a nice version of the original poster artwork, but of course is pan and scan with analog audio, and unfortunately this particular copy is very prone to laser rot. So my copy I have has a bit of speckling, so I'm curious to check this out and see if I can sort of improve my copy with this one having a less speckling in certain points. But this is just one of those titles that you might have to go through a couple different copies to get one without major laser rot in some area. He also sent me 2 signature collection titles, both of which are highly desirable, so these were further shocks and surprises in this mystery box. So he sent me the signature collection of The Thing remake, which of course is super iconic among Laserdisc enthusiasts because of the extensive supplemental features, which form the bulk of all the supplements on DVD and beyond. This has, of course, the usual signature collection style. The jacket's in perfect shape with the nice sort of gloss finish Universal would put on these, and a really nice quality version of the original poster artwork sized for this particular cover design. The gatefold is really extensive with a great amount of text. We have a picture of John Carpenter, which actually has a printed autograph on it. And then we have the film on disc 1, which is in CLV, and then disc 2 is entirely devoted to the making of documentary and supplements produced for this Laserdisc first, and then side 4, which is side 2 of the extras, is in CAV. What's also great about watching LD extras where they were first generated is you're also getting lossless audio for that as well. So even though it's usually just interview pieces, I still like being able to look at things the way they were first developed, and you get better audio quality as well. The rear is also quite nice and does hype up all of the supplements. This was quite stuffed in terms of a Laserdisc special edition, so this is one of the spiffiest Signature Collection discs in terms of additional features. So on the digital tracks, we have a Dolby Surround matrix encoded version of the film, which should replicate the original general release 35mm mix of the film. And then we have an upgrade to Dolby Digital AC3 on one of the analog tracks, in addition to the other analog track having the really fun and fantastic feature commentary. And if you've never heard one of the John Carpenter and Kurt Russell commentaries, definitely listen to this one and the one they did for Big Trouble in Little China. The other is the also highly desirable and sought after Signature Collection disc of The Last Starfighter, which is, again, in perfect shape. So I was just stunned to find not one, but two of the signature discs that I just kind of given up on finding in good shape at a good price. This, of course, has the original poster artwork in the Signature Collection style with a nice gloss finish. The gatefold is beautifully done with extensive notes. Again, a sort of autographed photo from the director, and then the chapters on the side. This, of course, is a single disc CLV for the film on two sides, and then side 3 is where you get the new documentary and extras made for this release. It's just one side of extras as opposed to the thing having a two-sided full disc of extras. You have a really nice rear cover, which follows the same standard the thing set in terms of having the supplements with a new documentary, of course having the original Dolby Stereo mix on the digital tracks with Dolby Surround encoding, but also having an upgrade to Dolby Digital 5.1 AC3 on the analog track, and also having a new director commentary made for this LD release on the other analog track. So this is just like the thing in terms of it being quite substantial in its supplements, and these really formed the basis of all the Universal releases in terms of the supplements. But this LD was never quite supplanted fully by those Universal releases, which were never really quite good, and it wasn't until Arrow Video did a new 4K master on Blu-ray and now UHD that you could, finally just retire the LD to more of being just a collector piece. But this is still a fantastic LD, a later pressing, one of the signature discs that it takes a long time to try and track down, and one of the most impressive ones in terms of new transfer audio and supplements. So this was just a real shock and surprise to find in here. And then lastly, to go over the two box sets he sent me, this one was another surprise. This is the Three Stooges set that Sony did in 1995. This was, I guess, their first sort of attempt at doing a major restoration, a catalog overhaul of the iconic Three Stooges shorts. And so you get 18 of them here, 15 from the original era with Moe, Larry, and Curly, and then 3 in the sort of second era with Moe, Larry, and Shemp. This is also really nicely printed. It's got a very thick gloss on the box and is another sort of traditional Laserdisc lift top box. The artwork is fantastic, and I like that they've sort of done a collage. If you look closely, it's a collage of all the different shorts included and various Three Stooges images. Of course, you take the top off and you just have the discs inside with the traditional Columbia white label. The big thing with these is going to be that this is before Sony started the more modern digital restorations, and these also have lossless PCM audio. So I'm very curious to compare these in terms of the presentations here on this box set to some of the same shorts in the more modern restored Sony DVD box. So I'm just very curious to compare the two, and especially the audio. Nicely, we get a lovely printed insert with some text and also all the chapter stops. But also very nicely, we have a short description and the release year for each of the shorts, so you can follow along in chronological order as well. But that's not all. They also included this fantastic poster, apologies for the glare, but of the boys in full Stooge mania with this new sort of banner that Sony had created. So I'm sure this was designed to hang in video stores or the video section of a major store when these were coming out on VHS and Laserdisc. So this is a really nice touch, especially since most LD boxes didn't always include the poster. The poster was usually a mail-away item. So I don't know if all of these boxes contain the poster, but it was really nice that they actually did put the poster in the box. And then last but certainly not least is another quite legendary title among Laserdisc collectors in terms of having particular prints of classic cartoons and also not being a very common set, and also one that usually still has a great price premium attached to it. So I was stunned once again to pull out of the mystery box the first volume of The Art of Tom and Jerry from MGM UA. This is exactly done in the same style as the Looney Tunes Golden collections, and did see a couple volumes of curated shorts from the best available prints they had access and rights to, and also has digital PCM mono soundtracks. So this is basically the best and most sort of hands-off approach to transferring these shorts done at the time. Now, I believe on this particular box, there are a few of the shorts that are the slightly later edited versions or slightly redone versions, because, of course, just like Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, Tom and Jerry shorts did have various versions and have certain shorts that are very much not politically correct in some of their elements. And this has also been a bit of a back and forth with the studios, because there have been DVD releases where they just stopped releasing them or only did the edited versions or skipped over certain shorts entirely. So these sets are really important, just like the Looney Tunes Golden collections on Laserdisc. We, of course, have another beautifully illustrated and very important booklet, which not only gives you a little bit of information about each of the cartoons, but also gives you a bit more of the historical background. So we have all of the shorts listed here, and this one seems to depart from the Golden collections, which usually had programs of Looney Tunes shorts, whereas this seems to be going much more in just a traditional chronological program. But it's beautifully printed and also has the rear with the chapter stops and then a bit about Hanna-Barbera themselves. And of course, this was produced by George Feltenstein and Jerry Beck, just like the Looney Tunes Golden Collection volumes, and those two names are still very well known in the world of home video and physical media today. And then inside of the lift top box, we have the traditional MGM LD sleeve with the yellow MGM LD label. And of course, this being 10 sides, it's 5 discs in here, so this is quite hefty, like most of the MGM UA lift top boxes. So this was yet another stunning thing to find in this mystery box. So that does it for this mystery box. And once again, I'm overwhelmed by Jason's generosity for just sending me some amazing and super rare titles, and certain ones that I had just kind of given up on ever finding a decent, affordable copy of. So as always, I'm just blown away by what he sends me in mystery boxes. So as always, hopefully my rambles about Laserdiscs and physical media and old transfers and soundtracks has been at least somewhat fun and informative. Hopefully you are able to find some nice Laserdisc finds in some of your local haunts, even though it's usually kind of hit or miss, especially since Laserdiscs very much dry up and it just depends on what might get traded in or what lots come through. But it always helps to, keep checking your local stores and keep supporting them. And of course, going on eBay or various fan groups like Laserdisc Forever to pick up titles from other collectors. But as always, please do keep enjoying the Laserdisc format. Keep spinning your disc to help keep both your players alive, the format alive, and film culture alive. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.